Today's episode of the Kim Jacobs Show. Listen, we have a great show lined up for you. I'm your host, Kim Jacobs, better known as the Balance Doctor. And all of our guests that come on, they're either people that have overcome some tremendous odds in their own lives as they balance this thing called life, or they're experts and they're here to share tips and strategies that will help you better balance and manage your life. Grab your virtual seats and let's get ready for some real relevant and relatable content on today's episode of the Kim Jacobs Show. Of the Kim Jacobs Show. How are you, Victoria Finch?
Hi, how are you? I'm so fabulous, and especially since I'm with you and to be on your show. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you having me again, actually.
I know you have a whole different look and everything. I have a different look from the time we were interviewing before, so I'm grateful that you graced us again with your presence here on the show. And I love your look, very regal and different and out of the box. What made you go with that look? Tell me.
You never know with me. You know, it's all about the hair. So I went natural gray. It took me about 2 years. Okay. And so I fought really hard because should I color it? Don't color it. And I just like to have fun. So I have found these wonderful products that shampoo out after 3 or 4. So since now I'm in my natural gray, I like to have fun sometimes. Like today it's this color, next week it might be green. So every once in a while I like to put a little spice in life.
Oh, okay. See, now who would know that? I would never have known that if I didn't ask that question. That's why I think it's so important to just ask a question. If you have a question, ask it. Now, you may thank you for asking on my end what happened with all of my big hair, right? Because before you saw me big hair. So I actually have been natural for a few years, and I was loving my natural journey, but decided that I want my hair blow dried out, and I want to have hot curls. I like my hot curls. And so I went and got a perm, and I was like, oh, okay, Kim. Once I got the perm, Victoria, what happened was I think I saw every commercial that was saying things about, oh, this can cross the blood-brain barrier. I was like, I was getting so many like red flags that was going in my head, right? Even though I don't have any condemnation for anything, I'm just telling you my personal experience. So I decided I took some scissors, and over the course of about a few weeks, I slowly but surely cut all of the chemicals out.
So to go natural, I love it. Well, I was bored one day. That's how I ended up with these bangs.
But that is cute, the cutest bangs that can exist. So that's good. That's good. Okay.
Yeah, isn't it freeing though? Don't you feel like free when you're natural and you don't have to? It's freeing.
Yeah, but I'm definitely looking for. My hair is growing out. It's actually growing quite a bit. So I shouldn't do that because then Lord have mercy, it'll be like that the whole show. But I'm gonna blow dry it, and I found out that there's this type of California. I forget what they call it. It's some kind of blowout that you can get for natural hair, which people gave me. Like I had hundreds and hundreds of comments of advice for caring for my natural hair.
Oh, yes.
And anyway, so I use rose water, and I use a lot of the Design Essential products that are really working well in my hair with no chemicals. It still looks like it's nice and wavy in different regards. I'm like, oh, go ahead, Design Essential. Y'all are
just do
all
it.
Right. We totally digressed here on the show for a minute, but it's a great digression just to be able to learn about Victoria Finch. We're going to be talking about a real serious subject today, way beyond just our hair. We're going to be talking about dealing with childhood trauma.
Yes.
And how that impacts us in our adult lives. And so if you could, Victoria, just in a nutshell, as people are coming in, I see you all coming in, and welcome each and every one of you in the virtual studio audience. Grab your virtual seats, share the broadcast, and tag some of your friends so they can be a part of today's discussion. Tell us in a nutshell, Victoria, what people can expect.
Yes. So many times as adults, we don't know why we act the way we do. Sometimes it's like, why do I always find the bad relationships? Why do I overreact? Why do I feel so alone?
Hmm.
Why do I feel not good enough or unworthy? Why do I care so much about some people that I neglect myself? Well, I'm such a caregiver that I don't even I come last in everything. And these are some symptoms that it could be based on your childhood trauma, and things that you went through in life. And when we look at ourselves as adults, we might have depression. Where's this depression and anxiety coming from? And a lot of times it's coming from two places. It's how we think and how we feel about ourselves.
Wow.
We're saying.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I think that's huge what you're saying right there, that everything that you just said hits home with so many people already, that we could each individually pick out one piece of what you just said in a minute or less and easily identify with it. And if I'm speaking on your behalf in the studio audience, definitely put a 1 in the comments, or put some kind of comment saying, you're already walking down my street, Victoria. You're already speaking and preaching to me, because that's what she's going to be talking about in today's discussion on how our childhood traumas impact our adult lives. And
what you can do about it. Right?
Some solutions. What can we do about it? We're going to learn some solutions today as well from Victoria. Now, Angel said, hello, Victoria. I'm loving the hair.
Hi, Angel.
Benita said, good morning, beautiful ladies. Good morning to you as well. Listen, we're glad to have you all in the studio audience. I know quite a few of you all, you text me, you call and do all kinds of things. Put your comments in this right there in there, and I'll make sure that I acknowledge you. I do see that you're on, but I don't want to just call your name out if you haven't put a comment there. So feel free to put your comments throughout the day's discussion. We're going to take our first commercial break, and then when we come back, I'm going to formally introduce Victoria Finch, the heart healer. We'll be right back right after this commercial break.
I'm attorney Charles Everidge. I started out representing insurance companies until my father was seriously injured at work. 4 of his fingers were amputated. Our family went through a lot, so I know what you're going through as an injured worker. If you've been hurt on the job, call me now. I'll fight to get the workers' comp benefits you may deserve. I'll fight for you like family. Put my experience to work for you. Call 704-457-5000, the first call for injured workers.
But I can't hear you when you first come on.
All right, let's see. I think it's playing the commercial again, but that's a good thing in a way, because that's one of our primary episode sponsors, which is Hunter Everidge Law Firm, and quite excited to have them represented today. If you're dealing with disability, or you're dealing with any type of wrongful death of a loved one, workers' compensation, give them a call. And their phone number is 704-251-2945, or they're also in the Alabama area. If you're in Richmond or Alabama or the Carolinas area, definitely reach out to them and stay connected and learn more about how they can serve you. Let them know the Kim Jacobs Show sent you their way. All right, Victoria Finch, the heart healer is what she is. She's an international best-selling author, mentor, and life coach who specializes in inner child healing and PTSD release, how to get rid of it, how to release it. With over 30 years of experience in this field of energy healing and personal development, she holds a number of certifications. She's certified by the International Board of Coaches and Practitioners and the International Practitioners of Holistic Medicine as a master clinical hypnotherapist and a master practitioner of emotional freedom techniques. She also holds certifications in thought field therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, life coaching, solution-based life coaching, and many other certifications. So I'm going to talk with her today, even about some of the ranges of techniques and approaches that she uses to be able to help people release these things. And we're going to learn more about how she lives her best life with greater joy, peace, and fulfillment. I am so pleased to have you, Victoria Finch, right here on the Kim Jacobs Show.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, so let's go ahead and just go back a little bit. if we're talking about childhood trauma, all of us have experienced something in our lives that has been something that we've carried throughout the years. So I don't consider
Mhm.
that abnormal in my opinion.
Right. So, in order for it to be characterized as trauma,
Mhm.
there are some indicators. One, life threatening. I had a client who every day didn't know what her life is going to be, right to the point, is my dad going to throw me through a window or whatever? So, you have to feel like your life is threatened.
Okay.
Okay. You have to feel like your coping mechanisms are no longer working. Like, can you run and hide? No, I can't run and hide. I can't pretend to not feel the pain anymore. So your coping mechanisms are not working for you anymore.
Wow.
Also, you've been let down. Maybe there's an adult that should have protected you that wasn't. You had no place to go. You had no way of getting help. So these are some of the indications. We've all had, maybe not all of us, but most of us have had bad relationships that went bad. And some of the things I talked about, maybe we've overreacted to something that we thought later, what made me do that? That doesn't necessarily mean you have trauma.
Okay.
Right.
That's good. So already the life is threatened. Some of these things that you're saying, I didn't know. So I did not even know that, because I know I have either family members or personal people that I'm really heavily connected to that I love. And I'm witnessing some things that are concerning to me.
Mm-hmm.
But when you just as a regular person try to address some of these things, it seems almost like, okay, Kim, you're going to need to back up off of the topic a little bit, because it's aggravating the person too much. And you can see the aggravation.
Mm-hmm.
But what you're saying is it's important that it's like if the life is being threatened in some regard,
or you feel that your life is being threatened, either or.
And no coping mechanism of what's going to be the outcome, the solution to what I'm feeling.
Right. You're unable to cope with what's happening to you at this point.
But if a person doesn't recognize that, Victoria, how can somebody help them recognize that this is where you are? You're in the picture frame. You can't see yourself, like Les Brown says, but we on the outside can see you.
First off, they have to take personal responsibility and start becoming self-aware. Everything starts with that self-awareness. The asking the questions. Why do I feel this way? Why does this happen to me often? You have to become self-aware. Listen to the words you're saying to yourself. I was talking to a very famous photographer yesterday, extremely famous, Hollywood, the whole shebang. Right. And she says, I just show people the beauty within them. No, you change lives with these photographs, by making people feel that beauty that they may not. So watching our language that we speak to ourselves is really important. And that's really, when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, that's when we usually seek help.
But you have to, as an individual, I wrote what you said here. I just typed it over here in the comment section. A person has to take personal accountability and become self-aware first in order for you to even know that there's an issue that exists that you need help with. So it doesn't matter who else says, you need help, you need help, you need to get some help. Then that doesn't matter, is what I think I'm hearing.
Until the person can see it on their own, it's like talking to a wall, right? It's like talking to a wall. I deal with people who have been in narcissistic relationships, right?
Right.
And they don't see it. They don't realize they're being love bombed. They can't see it. And there's nothing you're going to tell them that's going to make them see it until they take a look at the situation and say, you know what, I'm worth more than this. I'm worth more than this. No one, not me or anyone, should have to live like this. And they come to that realization. Now, I'm not saying if you see someone in a bad situation, you don't speak up. Of course you speak up.
Of course.
Of course.
I always will speak up. So
Exactly. So that's not what I'm saying.
Right.
And not only that, we tend to tell people, because we see things differently, And we tend to tell people like, you need to leave him alone. You need to leave her alone. You need to walk away and tell people what they need to do. And what happens? The brain kicks in and the brain goes into defensive mode.
Every time.
And all of a sudden, they don't want to do it because it is their normal. It is their comfort. I know that sounds rough, but that's what happens. And when I'm working with someone, what I do is I invite them to look at things differently.
So you ask for permission for them
to. So exactly. I might say something like,
that's good.
How does this feel for you? How are you feeling right now? Is this how you want to live the rest of your life? Now they're thinking. I've posed a question because the questions always has the answer. The brain has to answer whatever question you give, your subconscious, it has to. I'm working with a gentleman and his friends are telling me, he's got friends and family. He's got to leave her. She's horrible for him and all of this, that, and the other. And when we're working together, it's never about her. It's about him. Why are you staying in a relationship that's no longer serving you? And if I could get him to see his worth, he'll leave it on his own.
Right.
It's not about what anybody else has done to you or who they are. And sometimes sorry never comes. And this is the hardest thing for people to understand. Sometimes sorry never comes. I'm looking for, why do you think when people are breaking up, they tell people, I'm leaving you. Usually they're telling them because they either want someone to say, oh, don't leave.
Right.
Or they want to say, or they want to hear the I'm sorry. And sometimes it doesn't come. And when you're dealing with the inner child and when you're becoming self-aware, you realize that really doesn't matter because that's about them and not about you.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So no wonder you're gifted at what you're doing here because this is extremely informative. Being able to link our childhood traumas to our adult, like the whole effect of how it's carrying over or spilling over into our adult lives. And that's what we're talking about today on this episode of the Kim Jacobs Show. And I wanted to ask you, Victoria, when you go back to your own childhood, were there some triggers and some childhood traumas that you experienced personally that made you so passionate about this particular field of interest?
When I was 2 years old, well, as a child, we lived in a small home. It was 3 bedrooms. I had 3 brothers and I had 2 sisters. I was the youngest. And I didn't have a place at all, being the youngest because my parents had a room, right? So I had no crib. I had no room. I just had nothing of my own. And it was whoever would take me. That's where I would end up. And I usually in my parents' room. And so I grew up feeling unwanted, right? And my parents, one time I was about 2 years old and my parents asked me to leave their room. And I left their room and I went into my sister's room. They told me to get out. I went into my brother's room. They told me to get out. Not only did they tell me to get out, it's like, we don't want a girl in here, right? And so here I was, 2 years old. I remember it. I was still a toddler in diapers. I went and sat on the side of my parents' door, feeling unloved, unwanted. And that little girl sat by her parents' door for over 50 years. And how did she sit by the door? Getting into relationships with men that didn't want to commit, never feeling good enough. High achievers, believe it or not, usually have suffered some type of trauma. Becoming a high achiever because I needed validation outside of me. So that's how it showed up in my life. And it showed up for a very, very long time. And you would see me and you think, oh, she's confident and she's got all this stuff going on. No, it was just a facade. It was fake. I would work my butt off to get certified or to get a degree or something. When I got it, it really didn't mean anything because it was all about the validation.
So once you got validated in one thing, you just wanted another validation, So it was just a constant.
I didn't realize that I had to validate myself, that everything I had was within me. So the reason I got into hypnotherapy was I came across someone on YouTube that was a famous hypnotherapist, Marissa Peer. She's very famous. She's in the UK. I came across her and she had did a free session or something. So I did that, and I went back to that little girl, right? And it made some changes in my life. And then in 2017, I'm sitting on the side of the bed, not caring if I woke up the next morning. And in and out of anxiety most of my life. This is how it showed up for me.
Right.
And so I have a bottle of pills in my hand, and just as I get ready to, I turn the bottle, I shake them in my hand, and just as I put them up to my mouth, I hear this voice like it is right beside me. I call it the voice of God, the divine, that said, I made you on purpose for a purpose, and this is not it. And I still get choked up talking about it. And so I got up, I poured those pills out, and Spirit told me I had a heart issue. I had a heart issue. Say, I came from a loving family, and I'll get to that, but I had so busy feeling unwanted, I missed all of that love. And so I knew, I got busy. So I went on my own healing journey. And I realized I can't be the only one. Mark Twain often said, I don't know if he said it, but he was quoted as saying that the two most important days of your life is the day you were born, the day you found out why. That day I found out why. Was to heal the world one heart at a time. I got busy. That's how I got it. That's how, Les Brown, our friend and mentor, came. I came across Wayne Dyer, all the greats. And I just said, I just poured into, but there was still something I couldn't figure out what it was. So I went into another hypnotherapy session, and I just busted out in tears. And the hypnotherapist, she says, "What's wrong? Why are you crying?" I said, "It's my dad. My dad had come out to get me. He didn't know I was sitting by the side of the door. And I remember him walking me." So here's the thing. The emotional impact of being left and abandoned was so much stronger to my little 2-year-old brain that it did not remember Dad coming out.
But he did come out and try. He realized you were there, whether it was he was going to the bathroom, whatever the case may have been. He actually saw his baby girl sitting there by the door, picked you up probably and brought you in the room.
Yes.
Because when he sent you out, or she sent you out, the mom probably thought, just go on with your siblings. They got you. They got you.
Yes.
They didn't mean any harm whatsoever, probably. What happened.
They were sleeping.
Oh my God.
They were sleeping. But still, I sat by that door not knowing this. And I thought, oh my gosh. And now I deal with people who truly have been through, alcoholic parents, immature parents who've been through what parents have gone through. Yeah. And maybe not, maybe I didn't experience that kind of trauma, but, I didn't feel my life was in danger and those kind of things, but I know what it feels like to be and feel unworthy and not enough.
And even at an early age, at 2 years old, it's still stuck with you, like you said, for 50 years, or it's still
50. 50 years.
That's what I said, 50.
Oh,
50.
Yes.
50 years later, it was still impacting your entire life's journey and all of your decision-making processes. That is overwhelming to even think that can be the case. But it's so accurate, because we if we ever do those type of trainings or sessions that you're sharing, that you personally went through, it's so much that would be uncovered and unearthed, uprooted out of our existence.
Yes, I work with people who have gone through years and years of therapy, and one session with me, it's like I never knew that my underlying emotion was fear.
Wow. Okay. So what we're going to do is we'll take another commercial break, but when we come back, I want to hear from you. How do we identify what our underlying issue is? Because right now you were able to speak about it intelligently today. Your underlying issue is fear. It's just that cut and dry with you now, understanding that. How do we, viewing and me hosting, understand what our underlying fear really is? We'll be right back after this commercial break. We're talking with
Silver Shield Security, which has been protecting my family and home, along with servicing the Carolinas for over a decade. Silver Shield Security knows the importance of convenience and safety. Whether you live in an apartment, a home, or run a business, they are here to protect you from unwanted intrusions and fires. Call now at 704-440-4688 or visit the website at www.silvershield-security.com. You can use my promo code #ToneX and get 1/2 off your installation price. Don't forget to ask about the new no money down options. Let Silver Shield Security help to give you peace of mind, just like me and my family, and keep your business safe.
Everyone, we're back. We're talking with Victoria Finch about how our childhood trauma can actually carry over into our adult lives. How do we identify what our underlying issue really is? Yours was fear.
Yeah, well, mine actually was unworthiness and abandonment.
Okay.
Right, and fear does come along with that. It's like, who's going to take me? Who's going to love me? You know, there's that part of fear to that. We have to go to the dark places, and that's really, as a heart healer, one of the things that I believe that I am here to do is to help people talk and walk through those dark spaces so they can find the light.
Now, I cut you off.
What we often do is suppress. I work with people who don't even remember their childhood because it was so traumatic for them. They don't remember it. And so I've got to bring those memories up so that now they're able to deal with them and they're able to face them. Go ahead.
That's so interesting that you're saying that, because I don't know if it's a gift or a curse. And you tell me, because you're the person that's the expert in this area. And that's why we're talking about stuff like this, guys, because when we're talking about balancing our lives and some things we may have had to overcome to become who we are today, if we're stuck in the things that we still have to overcome and we don't have experts like Victoria Finch coming on talking to us to get us to the other side, then we lose out, and we're losing out on a lot of our lives. But Victoria, for me, I can say there are things that's happened in my life that God just literally, I believe is God just wipes it from my memory. It's hard for me to hold a deep-rooted grudge against a person, if that makes sense, because different pieces of that story, I genuinely don't remember. So it's like, okay, I
that's
love you.
Different. That's different. That's different. That's actually a really healthy, it's attitude. That is saying, this isn't going to stay with me. I'm not going to upset my peace. I'm going to move on. It's kind of like you have that argument. It's like, what were we even fighting over? Right? Because you forget, because you've moved on, which is a healthy response to something. But I'm talking about things that are so deep that you don't want to face. You don't want to go back to that closet that you were locked up in for days.
Oh,
that's what I'm talking
literally
about.
Something. So really, then I need to define what is trauma, and maybe you can. What is trauma? Because what I'm talking about is just issues and situations.
Again, you feel like your life is threatened.
Okay.
You don't have your coping mechanisms aren't working anymore. There is an expectation that was not met in the case of an adult that should have protected you, or maybe you went to the authority or something, and so you just stopped telling me you were getting beat every day. You didn't tell people you were hungry. So it really has to meet a certain criteria, because there's a difference between things that just happen to us and things that are actually considered trauma.
Wow. Okay. So a definition here as well in the dictionary, Oxford language. Anyway, it's a deeply distressing or disturbing experience or a physical injury of some sort, as well as some other things that they said. This is very enlightening. So any of you all in the studio audience that may have experienced a childhood trauma, and we have here today Victoria Finch, who is an expert in this field, would like to be able to maybe even answer some of your personal questions. Maybe you'll never go to therapy, but while you have her here during this hour, get some of your questions answered. So pop them over in
there's two of them. They're coming. There's two of them now in the chat.
Oh, let's go ahead. Go ahead. Do you want to read it? I'll read it and then you answer.
How did you come up with the feelings of unworthiness? That's an emotion that's taught.
Wow. Okay.
This is true. Remember, my emotion originally was abandonment, right? We all have that need we as human beings, we are herders. We want to be part of the group. We want to belong. And when we don't belong to the group, or when we feel outside of the group, whatever that group might be, we start coming up with, I'm unworthy, I'm not enough, there must be something wrong with me.
Mhm.
And that's how I came up with the unworthiness, is because you're looking around, it's like, oh, well, they've got friends, but yet I never got picked to play on the team.
Wow.
Good enough.
Wow. Okay, next question. I see Vicky. Okay, good morning. Good morning to you, Mom. Glad to have you on. And I see Vicky L. Evans. And actually, we're doing, just so all of you know, we're doing a book review on her book, which is called Know Your Worth, and how to actually overcome the dragons that pop their ugly heads in our lives. And her book about knowing your worth is something that, this is the book here. I have it right here. Know Your Worth, and it's a great read. So you can go to VickyLEvans.com to get her book, her signed copy of that book. But she says what? You want to read that one?
Oh, I thought it was a question. It's not a question. She said, so true. While writing my book, Know Your Worth, it allowed me to unpeel and deal with childhood trauma that I had locked out because it was too hurtful to face.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. And that we've been doing that every Monday for the last few weeks. So I call my memory block our emotional amnesia. Very good.
I love that. Great terminology, emotional amnesia, because that's what emotion is. Emotion is energy in motion.
Yes.
And when that energy has been disrupted by trauma, abuse, then the motion kind of gets sucked out of it.
I'm glad you're addressing that. So it's energy in motion is your way of wording it.
Yes.
Now, how do people go about when I think of hypnotherapy? I've been in counseling. I'm a big advocate for counseling and therapy. I think it's very healthy to have an accountability person that maybe you don't know, but because you don't want to pour your whole life out to every person that you know per se. But when you're back there in therapy, you need to let it go. That's your time to release and let it go. Yeah. But one time I was in therapy or counseling, because it wasn't therapy. I didn't think it was therapy. It was just me going to a counselor. And the person actually said they were going to do kind of hypnotherapy stuff. I was like, wait a minute, I don't know you like that. You ain't kidding me. What is hypnotherapy? This is me. Maybe it's in my ignorance, and I admit that if that's the case. But I stopped going to that particular person because I didn't even want the person to do something ding, and I didn't know it was happening to me. So
I wonder how many people know the reference you just did.
I know I'm being silly. Don't get me wrong, okay. But I really want you to address that for a moment.
Yeah, all hypnotherapy, all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. No one can make you do anything you don't want to do. If they say relax, you're the one relaxing. If you're told close your eyes and just follow your breath, you're closing your eyes and following your breath. No one can make you do anything. No one can make you do silly things that you don't want to do. You see these shows, right, where someone's on the table and they're doing cracking like a duck or something.
Right.
And let me tell you, that person would do it anyway if they had enough drinks in them. I'm just saying. What it does, it just allows them, it doesn't change them. It just allows sometimes people to free up their thinking critical mind, because that's really what it does, is that it gets you out of your thinking critical mind into the subconscious mind. But no one can, and if it's something you wouldn't normally do, or something, let me put it this way. If it's something that you don't believe in,
okay,
you're not going to do it because somebody put you in hypnosis. And the thing is that hypnotherapy, believe it or not, even though I'm a master hypnotherapist, is one of the modalities that I probably use the least. I use other modalities with cognitive behavior and also journaling. Journaling is really important to be able to write your feelings out.
I do that.
Yeah, journaling is a gratitude. We always talk about gratitude, right? Staying in a place of gratitude. If you can put yourself in a place of love and gratitude, machines show that you will create an energy field up to 9 feet outside of your body. That's why some people, where people like strangers just start, I know this happens to you, Kim, because I know you a little bit. But anyway, strangers will start talking to you like out of the blue, and they may say something like, I don't know why I'm saying this to you. It's because
That happens to me all the time.
Yes, you're projecting an energy of love that people can pick up on. And when you're healed, people will start gravitating to you. It's really an interesting phenomenon.
Okay, so see, I don't know anything about the energy field and all of that stuff at all.
That's okay.
All I know is that I believe that my steps are ordered by the Lord.
Yes.
And that's the terminology that I can process and understand, that
Yes.
if I'm going here and I trust the Lord with all my heart, lean not into my own understanding, and I acknowledge him in all my ways, then I believe wholeheartedly that he will direct my path some kind of way, and that everything works out for my good, whether it doesn't look like it's for my good or not at that moment or in that season. That's stuff that is out of my control. That's stuff that's on you, God, because for whatever reason you allowed this to happen to me, or to be able to happen to me. And so some kind of way it's good. I don't know why. I don't know who was going to get impacted, what was going to go down, but thank you for sparing me and for allowing me to understand that there had to be something good in that situation.
Yes, yes. And everything is either a lesson or a blessing, right?
Yeah.
Everything we go through is either a lesson or a blessing.
Wow. Now, I know earlier when we were talking, you shared feeling abandoned at 2 years old, and then 50 years later, still acting out that abandonment. But then you were about to also talk about the realness of the situation, which was that your family was loving. So when we come back after this commercial break, I'd like for you to just talk about the loving side. Maybe it was an illusion that just tormented you for 50 years. I don't know. So when we come back after this next commercial break, I'd like to hear more about that. We'll be right back, everybody. All right, everyone, we're back and we're talking with Victoria Finch, the heart healer. And this woman is sharing information that is very helpful to each of us today. Feel free to ask your questions in the virtual studio audience. And I do want to take a moment again to acknowledge some of our episode sponsors, silvershield-security.com. You don't have to have a contract to have those services and their security system installed in your home or apartment. And they're in the Carolina and the Georgia area. Also with Confidence Tones, confidencetones.com, one of our episode sponsors today. Make sure you know to reach out to Dr. Joe D. Bear, who's one of our Freestyle Friday experts right here on the Kim Jacobs Show, and learn more at 800-820-0584. All right, so Victoria, you were talking to us about abandonment, unworthiness, to the point where it produced a lot of fear in your life. What was your family really like?
Yeah, I actually grew up in a very loving household. And the change for me came when I was told by Heather, and I got to find her last name. I've been looking for her forever. And she said something to me, and I think it's true for several of us. And that is, she said, Victoria, you were so busy feeling unloved, you missed the love that was all around you. And that was so true.
But how did you do that? Are you now as this age with the beautiful flowing purple hair for this week or whatever? How do you recognize that you missed it? Or is it that, no, I really didn't miss it. I was experiencing what I really thought was happening.
No, in my case, I really did miss it in my case. Because at the end of the day, youngest of 6 children, it's perfectly natural for a 10-year-old not to want to drag the baby around everywhere. It's perfectly natural for boys to want to, in this day and age, be boys. Yeah, I guess we could say that in this day, to be boys. These are very natural things, right? And my mother had said something to me, and it was a matter of fact. She said, I was born in 1961, and in the United States, birth control was not widely available until 1963. And my mother was having just like a casual conversation about how she loved all of her kids, but if she could have and it was available, that she probably would not have had me, right? But my mother is such a loving woman. She didn't mean like she didn't want me. She was speaking from her, I've got 6 kids. Right?
I have 5.
I've got 5 kids. You know, it wasn't like she didn't want me, but I still heard that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to minimize, there are people who are, and I work with them every single day, that were raised in homes where there wasn't love. Or at least their parents loved them the best they could.
Right.
But it wasn't healthy because of whatever went on with the parents. So we don't always miss it. We don't always miss it.
Right.
And
I'm glad you're saying that. You don't always miss it. What you really think you're experiencing and have experienced in your childhood trauma actually is carrying over because it's a part of what you lived and you experienced.
Yes. And then we have, and then here's an interesting is when I'm working with clients, very often they would say, maybe I dreamed it. Maybe this really didn't happen to me. Okay. And I really have to dig deep because there's a technique, it's called the story technique, where if someone can't remember something that's happened to them, or they thought they dreamed it, I have them create a story around it.
Interesting.
I have them create a story, especially if it's really traumatic and they can't. So I have them create a story. So they give it a title and they start saying this story. When they tell the story, it is so real. Yes, that little boy really did ride your bus. Yes, your dad really did. Yes, he really did drive that car. Because it got buried so deep. So by allowing the mind to tell a story, we're able to get down and then to let people realize that it wasn't you. It was never about you.
Interesting. Yeah, because I when I hear you speak about this right now, it kind of makes me wonder how important it is for just a general lay member. That's true, Kim. It's her energy of love. Oh, thank you so much, Cynthia. Now, when I think about the fact that a general person talking to another general person that could be like best buds or friends or whatever the case may be, and then you start trying to get somebody to do some storytelling and we don't know what's going to be unearthed at that point, I think that those kind of things need to be left in the hands of the professionals like yourself.
Yeah, I was going to go there. It's really important that you work with the people who are able to guide you through it. It really is important because when you've experienced trauma, there's an app where they have these trauma rooms and I cringe because people leave there in such a state that you just don't know. And you have to be really, really careful talking to people who have experienced childhood trauma or any type of trauma, because you don't want them to go back there. And now they have remember, coping mechanisms don't work.
Right.
And one of the ways that I know someone is reliving the trauma instead of just telling the story is that they bring it into the future, into the present. They bring it, like they might say, they would say something like, yes, I was riding the bus and I saw my father's car. I entered the house and my father came to me and he started talking to me. Now we're coming more into the present. He's telling me that I should have emptied the trash. He's telling me. So now we have brought it into the present. That means that they are actually living that trauma. And if you're not with a trained professional to help someone get through that, then you can very well unearth and leave them worse off than when they came.
Yeah, and it could be even dangerous to the situation if you all are face to face talking and something unsurfaces that you're not equipped to handle. Then that's something that should have been left to the professional.
And by the way, I'm what's called a helping practitioner, which means that I'm not a licensed medical professional. So there are times when people come to me where I have to refer them out.
Okay.
depending on what's happening with them. Because I'm a clinical hypnotherapy and I'm a clinical master practitioner, I can deal with trauma and some things. But there are times when I even have to refer out. It's no different than a doctor referring to a heart surgeon, right? And you have to be really careful when you're doing this kind of work and understand your lane.
Okay.
And that takes a lot of training. I've been through hours and hours and hours of training.
I'm glad to hear. I'm glad that you're taking the time to kind of break this down. Thank you, Athena, too, for your comment. She said creating a story technique that's very interesting to help a person get through their trauma with the help of a professional therapist. And she also said on a previous comment that this is really great information that you're sharing.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Athena.
And she's our sunshine expert here on the Kim Jacobs Show. So she comes on Fridays and shares all kinds of joy and love and sunshine and brightness and ways to encourage us. So thank you, Athena, for being.
We all need sunshine, don't we?
Yes, we need Athena, a sunshine expert. Okay, so are there like some basic steps that a person should consider? Like, I'm big on like baby steps. So what's the first step, second, any step-by-step process to getting to this healing, some solutions? Yeah. And what we're going to do is take a quick commercial break. And Mackenzie, I'll play the next one. Mackenzie's backstage helping me. So thank you so much too. I don't take for granted when I have someone helping, and it does make a tremendous difference on the show. So thank you so much. Let's take this comment down, and I'm going to play something from one of our episode sponsors right now. Here we go. I'll play it.
A great day. I'm a digital marketing specialist, a web designer, and also a web developer. Odds are you're a business owner watching this video. If so, you may be struggling with digital marketing and or building the right website for your business. But that's where I come in, to help you build a website that you're proud of and also hit your target audience. So let me help you build the better business you deserve. For examples of websites that I've worked on, check out my website, jeremiahjjacobs.com. That website in itself is also an example because I built it, and it's an example of a one-pager. To get more information on the plans that I offer, contact me at info@jeremiahjjacobs.com. Repeat, info@jeremiahjjacobs.com. That is my email, not a website. So hopefully you guys have a great day, and I hope to hear from you soon. Bye.
All right. That is one of our episode sponsors today, and also my 18-year-old son who has just recently graduated from high school, and he is doing some digital marketing, and the clients that he has, they love him. So anyway, very glad to have you, Jeremiah, as one of our episode sponsors. All right. So let's go with some solutions, Victoria.
Yes. First of all, healing is a journey. I'm still on my journey. We can always self-improvement. I journal, I meditate. I'm still there. I'm in the midst of it as well. Some things you can do. We talked, the first thing I said, becoming aware. Becoming aware of your situation. Who are you hanging around? Who are you with? Are you with people that are dragging you down? Are you with people that are uplifting you? Look who your circle is. You can also develop self-love and self-acceptance. Well, how do you do that when I've been told all my life I'm not lovable? You start asking the questions. Is it true? Listen to what you say about yourself. I'm not lovable. I'm not smart. Is that true? Is it always true? Is it always true? Can you think of situations where that wasn't true?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So now you're starting to open up. You're opening up your mind. The other thing you can do, I talked about meditation. Meditation and just getting silent is really important. And this is one that I find can be the most difficult. Setting healthy boundaries. Setting healthy boundaries.
And what does that look like, Victoria? Because people say that all the time, setting healthy boundaries.
I was just going to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Carry on.
One, recognizing that no is a complete sentence.
Yes.
You do not have to explain yourself when it's a no.
Mm-hmm.
It is a no, but I wish I could. It's a no. Right. And that was hard for me, being a pleaser. Right. Mm-hmm. Taking a moment for self-care. If you have been volunteering for everything and everyone,
Yeah.
set that boundary and say, I'm not going to do this one. I'm not going to be the team mom this year. I literally had to do this. I'm not going to be the team mom after 11 years, right? Setting boundaries. I want to move into this.
Right.
Helping, that's what that looks like. Really learning to say no. And if you don't, that's really hard for people. So if you can't say no, just say not at this time.
I'm not able to right at this moment. Right.
Yes. Yeah. So there's all different ways you can say that, right?
Mhm.
And then listening to your inner dialogue.
That's good.
Studies show that we produce 50 to 70,000. I'm not sure what happened. That we produce 50 to 70,000 thoughts a day. 95% of those thoughts are from the day before or from the day before. And believe it or not, 85% of those are negative.
Right. Right.
Watching your thought is so important. What are you saying to yourself? Understanding that if you want different, you have to become different. You have to let go of the older you. That woman that was sitting on the side of the bed in 2000, she's gone. She's no more. My son, he experienced anxiety and depression for many, many years. And he came home one day, and I will say his name because he shares his journey. And he says, Mom, don't call me Cameron anymore. I'm Cam. Cameron is gone. So you have to be willing to let go of what you're holding on to so you can become whom you're meant to be.
That is good. Okay. Taking ownership of that and becoming who you were meant to be. I love that.
Yeah.
And Vicky actually said that she said no is a complete sentence, which is what you said. And I told myself that I was ugly for years, and that is not true. And she is gorgeous.
No, yes.
So
yes.
That definitely is not true. And she says she affirms herself every day now.
Yes.
Great.
Yes. And affirmations, people talk about affirmations all the time. And Noah St. John did a book called Affirmations. And the difference being is that a lot of times people will say, I'm beautiful, I'm great, I'm all these things, but they don't believe it and they don't understand why it doesn't work for them.
Okay.
The reason why it doesn't work is because it stops at your brain stem. Your hippocampus is saying, this isn't true. You don't really feel this way. Ain't gonna happen. And it stops and it doesn't go anywhere. Right. And Noah St. John, he does something called affirmations, which is, again, going back to the subconscious mind, saying, why am I so beautiful? Why is there so much abundance around me?
Yes.
Why is everything falling into place for me? And now you have totally went past your prefrontal cortex straight into the subconscious mind, and then you will start to feel more of those things.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's not just saying it and being motivated by it, but affirming it for like speaking it into your existence, into your life. Like a foreshadowing type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it.
And then, building healthy relationships with others. What does we could do a whole show on that, so I'm going to keep it short. Some of us don't even know what a healthy relationship looks like. A healthy relationship is a relationship where you don't feel trampled on, where you don't feel used, where you feel loved and accepted and worthy. A healthy relationship is one where you don't have to perform to keep someone from being angry at you.
Right.
And this is just a few of the things for healthy relationships.
Oh my goodness. You have to come back and talk about some healthy relationship stuff for sure. You can come back anyway, anytime, just so you know. So you're welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate. I got a whole bunch. I keep going. I'll give a few more. I don't know what our time is like.
Well, we actually will be stopping in 4 minutes. So we have about 4 more minutes here on today's episode. Loving this episode, Abby said.
Oh, thank you, Abby.
And somebody else, Angel, said, I love this. And I know earlier, Mackenzie popped up the National Suicide Hotline.
Yes.
Athena said, thank you. And so we want to make sure you know if you're in the United States, it's 988. 988 is the National Suicide Prevention hotline. And if you are in another country, because I know it streams in 100 countries, make sure that you look at your local area, because every country has a suicide prevention hotline. You can even call anonymously as well. So make sure that you get the help that you need. Victoria, what are some other things that you really want people to know pertaining to childhood trauma and how it's impacting our adult lives?
Yes. The number one thing that I want you to know, because I know what it's like to be invisible. And the thing that I want you to know is that you matter, you are enough, and I see you.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Say it one more time. You matter.
You're enough.
You're enough.
And I see you.
And I see you.
God has given me the ability to intuitively see what's really going on. I don't hear what you say. I see and feel what you are going through. And I have this ability. So I'm an intuitive healer. So I'm very different. I had a client, for instance, I'll share this really quickly. I had a client who would tell the story about this little girl who mistreated her on the playground all the time, mistreated her. But some reason she wanted to be the friend with this little girl so badly. And I asked her, I said, the biggest question to ask yourself is, why was it so important that this little girl accepted you? She said, I didn't think of that. My next question to her is, who in your life have you been seeking acceptance from that you didn't get? And she told me it was a sister. They were 4 years apart. She tells me this story and she says, we have a good relationship, but I could see that. I already knew that there was someone that she was looking for in her life that she was trying to get this acceptance from.
Yes.
And then and she says, well, we have a great relationship now. And I just looked at her. I said, do you really? Because I could see, she says, well, I do pretend that we're closer than we are.
Oh.
So these are things that God has allowed me, the divine allows me to see, to bring up these things in people.
Wow.
And that's how I get people. They're like, because this is how I create that safe space, because I ask these questions in such a way that people really have to think about it. And I just want you to know that you are seen and you matter and you're enough.
Wow. And how can people book a session with you, learn more of what your process looks like so that they can engage with you more? What do they do?
Yeah, please send an email to my name, Victoria, at justaskvictoria.com. And my executive assistant will send you a link and set up an appointment to meet. And it's and I meet with you myself. It's not my staff or someone else. It's Victoria at justaskvictoria.com. And we will send you an appointment link to have a clarity call.
Wow. Okay. Listen, you in the virtual studio audience, I saw your comment, Vicki. You said that this confirms some of the things that you're teaching in your books and in your plays and services that you offer. So thank you so much for tuning in today. And I want you all to stay connected with Victoria Finch. JustAskVictoria.com. All of her services are there on her website. And as far as her email, Victoria at JustAskVictoria.com. And that's for some of the podcast listeners. Actually, speaking of podcasts, we recently got 5,000 downloads. And so I just want to thank all of you all on audio podcasts as well for tuning into the Kim Jacobs Show. Cynthia Lennox, who is becoming a show host herself, says, great show. And thank you so much for today's episode. You all stay connected with Victoria. She is definitely a heart healer. She has touched my heart throughout this entire episode.
Oh, thank you.
And I feel a connection with you on a much deeper level.
Always. Yes. And thank you so much for having me back again. And I'm so thrilled that, we took the time to be together today.
Yes.
And it's important. It's important to stay with good people in your life, right?
You better believe it.
Back to those healthy relationships.
Yes, I agree. And all of you that have tuned in today to today's episode, we don't take it for granted. We thank you for being in the virtual studio audience. Many people want to know how you can officially support the Kim Jacobs Show. The way that you can do that is simply donate. donate to the Kim Jacobs Show. We are on weekdays at 11 o'clock a.m. I believe we provide a lot of value to the community by giving you wonderful experts that help us just put together one of the missing pieces of the puzzle that might be missing in our lives. And then they come on and they share, here, there you go. That's the puzzle piece. And we can move on this thing called life. So I'm super excited when we get the opportunity to have guests like Victoria. Donate today to the Kim Jacobs Show. You can do it through Cash App, which is $ Kim Jacobs Inc. And I'm only saying it because of the audio podcasters. And PayPal.me/Kim Jacobs Inc. or Venmo at the Kim Jacobs Show. You can also become a Patreon member at patreon.com/the Kim Jacobs Show. And that gives you a chance to unlock some exclusive content just for you. All right, everybody. Closing comment, Victoria.
Thank you so much for having me. And I've seen the comments, and that is why I do what I do each and every day. God has been God. He has given me the gift. I went and got the knowledge, and together we'll change the world. We'll change the world, even if it's just our own world.
Yes.
I see you. You matter. You are enough. If you really want to know how to reach out or have a session, please go to Victoria, justaskvictoria.com.
Wow. Dr. Marcia Alston is on too. She said, praise God for this expert that you presented today. A great blessing. Lady Justine Hilliard said, great show. Cynthia Lennox said, great show. Vicki Evans said, blessings and thank you, Victoria. Cecil says, love this, love the show. Lots of great comments coming in. Make sure you take a moment and go back and even address some of the comments in their different platforms if you're able to do so, Victoria.
Yes.
Y'all stay connected with Victoria. Send her a simple email. Don't go through this life and suffer in silence. You don't have to do that when you have Victoria Finch that can help you. Ask Victoria, justaskvictoria.com. Her email is victoria@justaskvictoria.com. Thank you all so much. We'll see you tomorrow at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a great one. Wow. Bye-bye. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of The Kim Jacobs Show and for being in the virtual studio audience. Your presence truly does make a difference, and I look forward to you bringing your friends and family to join you in the virtual studio audience Monday through Friday at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I look forward to seeing you and make it a great day.